Hello, and welcome to another episode of Ask Adam Live. As you know, ASK is the acronym for Always Seek Knowledge. That's what I hope this and each and every episode does that for you, that you ask. Ask a little bit more of yourself. Ask about others. Ask to understand the world around you. I think the more that you find out about those small little things that maybe you haven't paid attention to lately, the more you start to understand that, well, there's a pretty big world around us. And you'll also understand and possibly start to create some level of compassion and maybe not have so much stress in your life. Well, in this episode, we're going to look at scale with systems, not stress. Success isn't about doing more. It's about building a system that do more for you. Let's begin. Have you ever reached a point where working harder stopped producing better results? Most people believe that, well, growth requires more hours, more hustle, more sacrifice, which creates more stress. And they feel like that's normal. But eventually, that hard work, it reaches a ceiling. Systems don't. I found in my businesses, and this was before AI and automation and stuff like that, but just having that step by step process, not only did it create that flow of business, I was also able to translate that to my agents in that business, and they began following that same flow. And by them not only understanding and implementing the steps of the system, they were able to also convey to their clients their step system for helping them buy or sell real estate, for example. This not only helped build confidence because they knew what was next, they were also able to convey to their clients what was going to be next and maybe prepare them for those subtle bumps that end up in the road. All roads have them. But if you know they're coming, you adjust, right? Similar to driving your car. If you know there's a speed bump coming up, do you speed up or do you slow down? I know. When I was a kid, I sped up. I wanted to hit that thing like nobody's business. But we realize in life that doesn't make sense. So we slow down. We take it with caution. We go over the bump, jolts the car a little bit, but we move on. Excuse me, even in supply chain, we set up systems and processes where everyone knew what the next step was, actually made training kind of easy. Because once someone learned, you knew what the next step was. And then someone who came in who was just learning could observe not only seeing those steps being implemented and the results from them about what was coming and what was needing to be done next. Well, again, it created that flow process where there wasn't a lot of hangups. Yeah, there was a certain pause if something else was in effect, but by and large, things flowed and systems were in place. One of the other great things that I appreciate about having a system is that it creates that environment of nonverbal communication. If I see you at the file cabinet, maybe prepping a file, especially a new file, because it's tough to bend, they come flat originally, at least the files that we use. So you had to fold them. I mean, really put that crease in the middle of it. As I could observe and see someone pushing down and creating that bent folder, if you will, and pushing in that crease, I knew they were doing some new business. They were creating a new folder. That was that nonverbal communication. So I could see they were busy. Now, if I didn't see you creasing a folder, maybe I'd ask if you were in the file room prepping something, how things going? You might already be going to tell me, I'm looking at the files wishing I could crimp one soon. And that would be the discussion of let's look at some of the things you've already done or are looking to do to stimulate that business. Again, having that system and process in place, you know each one of the steps. And what I also found was that actually created a level of freedom, not restriction. Because I wasn't micromanaging agents to check in on them all the time. I could see what they were doing and what was going on by the processes that they were doing. Were they at their desk? Were they on the phone? Were people coming into the office? They were working. They were stimulating business. Again, I knew the process. And when I saw the same client maybe sitting at that conference table, well, now I knew they were discussing deals or having that conversation. You could see the steps taking place. I didn't have to ask an agent how they were doing. I could see by them following the systems and processes in place. What I promised to you in this episode is by the end, you'll have a framework for placing constant effort or replacing constant effort with repeatable systems that help you grow without burnout. Now, I know you're probably busy doing something, but let me get a show of hands of those of you out there, or at least a hell yeah, that I'm not a big fan of burnout. I don't mind working hard, but I'm not into the exhaustion thing. And I'm with you. I certainly agree that to do something with some effort, strategically, always create some level of improvement and or possibly the lesson learned that, well, that didn't work out so well, let's not do it again. But burnout, wow, that's kind of a turnoff. Here's the big idea. You don't rise because you work harder. You rise because your systems become stronger. Every successful person eventually shifts from managing tasks to designing systems. Probably a good time to interject it here, but AI, this artificial intelligence that, well, it's been around for, I wouldn't say a while, but it's been more than a minute. Quite frankly, it's at least 4 or 5 years. As far as implementing it to more of the public, where now it's being integrated in our emails and our conversations and our to-do lists and finding patterns and stuff in our life, well, again, that's just implementing it into the daily. But I can tell you that the artificial intelligence at large, companies and corporations have been throwing data at systems like these to give them the results they're looking for, such as market statistics and forecasting. So it's not a new thing. It's just a thing we're using, well, for everyone. You know, I love acronyms, and I have one for this episode as well. This is the SCALE framework. SCALE. Scale. Because that's what we want to do. We want to scale our businesses. I think you could even apply this to your life. Setting up systems in your life certainly can allow to scale the quality of your life and remove the stress. And I know you want to remove stress and eliminate burnout. So let's look at S. Simplify everything. Complexity creates stress. I think we can all agree. The simplicity aspect, well, that creates consistency. If you have a few small tasks, well, you're more going to do them in repetition and probably with some favor because you appreciate doing them. Doesn't take long. You do it, you get it done, get it out of the way, right? So ask yourself today, what is something I could eliminate? Maybe even ask yourself, what can I automate? And are there certain things that could be combined when you're looking at things that you do? Maybe if you're doing something in your kitchen, if you're already in the kitchen doing one thing, what's the second thing you could do while you're there? Maybe if you have a schedule where you get up in the morning and you have a kitchen routine, and then you go about your day throughout the house, and then you're getting ready for work, and then you leave. What are a few things that maybe could be combined in that situation and not left till you come back to the kitchen? Just as an example. See, successful people don't reinvent everything every day. They create routines. And many times through these routines, they begin to see things that, well, can be combined. Realizing, oh, I am in the kitchen. Instead of just doing one thing, I'm going to do three things. Now I don't have to come back to the kitchen. See how this is starting to work? C is create repeatable processes. So in these repeatable processes, we have maybe a morning routine, maybe a weekly planning, maybe we have a client onboarding. Maybe you're dealing with, for instance, a podcast like this, and you have production steps. Maybe there's follow-up steps if you're in marketing and sales, even financial reviews. See, each one of these things are not just a one and done. We're doing them repeatedly. And so consistency beats intensity. Once you do these things and simplify them, well, now it's not such a daunting task. And you can see how we're starting to eliminate burnout already. A, automate what you can. Technology has always been there to support us. I mean, you can go back in the day. I know our immediate eyes are going to AI, but there was a time where you had to start a fire. You had to get the griddle out. You had to lay the griddle onto the rocks. And then you had to get those slices of bread. But you had to tame the fire down just enough where it wasn't too much. And then you had to lay the bread on that griddle. And then you had to you had to sit there and monitor it because, maybe a wind came along and ignited the fire a little bit more. In order to get the perfect slice of toast. Well, there was a thing called electricity that came along, and then various forms of technology came along that allowed us to kind of set it and forget it. We'd place the bread in the machine, we'd push down on the button, and pop. Depending on how your dial was set, you got toast. See how technology has supported us, well, even back then. And it continues to support us now. In fact, now more than ever. There are so many things controlling our life, almost right up to being on our wrist. A watch used to tell time. Now that thing on your wrist will tell you, hey, you're walking. Hey, you're sitting too long. Hey, you should drink some water. Hey, you drank too much water. You've got to go to the facilities. There's so much technology that can help us. Part of it is taking a moment to understand, what can we automate? What things can we implement with technology? Now, I understand if you don't want the computers and the robots completely running your life. I get it. I'm with you. I understand. But there's certain things that could be automated. Some examples: calendar scheduling, email sequencing or sequences, reminders. Yes, and even the ones on your arm. Maybe even setting up a template for those repeated tasks. And again, let's embrace a little bit of the AI assistance, especially for those reoccurring tasks, like answering email. I know, I know you want to be genuine. And sometimes it's just a standard reply. But look at it this way: by even just having a simple template of, hey, I've got your email. I'm reviewing what you've requested, and I'll get back with you with some more details momentarily. Even that gives that hectic person, the one at the end of the hall that just has to have an answer by the end of the day, if not before lunch. And if you don't respond quick enough, well, they're already knocking on your door. Yes, but setting up a template just to simply respond. Again, you don't even have, you're saving time by not even answering the email directly. You're just giving them the confidence that you've received it. Then, in your schedule of routines, implement that time where you're actually going to sit down and study what it is they're asking, do some research, and then respond with a logical answer or something that's well thought out. And I know you say, well, I want to be genuine. Can I give you a hint? Emails and text messages, well, although in today's society they've evolved to being genuine, but if you truly, absolutely, to the heart of you, want to be genuine, you know how you do that? You grab a pen and a piece of paper and you hand write a note, a card, a letter, whatever it is. That is a true, genuine response. That is going to be received with reception, with so much gratitude that you sat down, found a pen and this paper to put together a thought. That will get more appreciation than you spending that extra hour out of your time sequence, out of that template, out of your schedule to sit down and write and to just type something in an email that you had to think about. I know you're still thinking it's disingenuous, but trust me, you'll start finding those auto responses are beautiful. You'll start embracing the folder that has just a few responses. Hey, I'll get to that later. Hey, I'm still looking into it. Hey, that's a great point. Let me look into it further and I'll follow up with you. Hey, this looks like it might require some research. I'll follow up with you in a few days. Those simple automations where you can click and place into that email, it's going to save you some time. Also, some burnout. Because in the hour, hour and a half, it might have taken you to, again, put together that genuine thought that maybe didn't require that genuine thought. We're already starting to chisel away and eliminate that thing called burnout. And isn't that what I promised we were going to walk away from this episode with, eliminating burnout? So ask yourself, what am I doing manually that only needs to be created once? Like I said, emails are one of them. L, leverage other resources. Leverage doesn't only qualify with people. Leverage can also be employing checklists, standard operating procedure lists, also known as SOPs. As mentioned earlier, templates. Again, technology, maybe even partnerships. Do you have to do all of it, or can you designate and delegate to someone else? Maybe even coaching. If someone is constantly leaving you with a little bit more than you desire, and again, that can create some burnout and stress, maybe some light coaching just to share with them to help balance the load. Maybe even sharing some of those templates with them, you'll find that they actually want to do more work. They want to accomplish a few more things because they have that additional amount of time. Where they were spending an hour doing something, you've now reduced it down to 15 minutes because you've given them some templates and a process. You've given them a system to save them some time. And that time that you saved them, you may find they're doing a little extra to help eliminate what you have to do. And collectively, what are we doing, gang? We are reducing burnout. Even knowledge. Again, understanding how something works. If there's a system that is something you can implement in your life personally or in your business, learn about that system and learn about that process and find that maybe this app will help you out. Maybe having something that allows you to just kind of point and click and send something, whether it be an email or a text. There's several systems that are out there. And by implementing that, that even can slightly automate the tone. So depending on what category you define this conversation in, whether it's casual or business, it can already adjust the tone and put together that response with about 2 to 3 clicks, and you're done. And you don't have to think about it. And I think that's much of what consumes a lot of our time is thinking about things. Now, I'm not saying don't think. I'm saying save that thinking power for something that's truly important, like maybe where you'd like to take your family, or the next vacation location, or just what could you be doing after you're done with your workday, and what fun things could you do with your family and your friends. That is going to eliminate some stress and possibly add some joy to your life, not only while you're doing the task, but after you've completed it in record amount of time. See, our goal here is multiplying efforts, not multiplying your exhaustion. So again, utilize technology, understand a little bit more how it works, and start working off of some checklists. And don't, I guess I should probably put a caveat on this as well, is don't spend too much time. You could spend half a day to a couple of weeks building this obnoxious checklist that just has, okay, make sure you didn't forget something. No, don't do that. Just come up with a simple 3 to 5 things that you're doing that are routine that you can check off, so that you simply look at a document and say, oh, I know what's next. Now, through that process, you may implement from 3 to 5 and get from 8 to 10. And that's fine because you're growing and you're learning. But don't start out with a 25 checklist. I'm laughing because I used to keep a document in my real estate folder, and it was usually part of the combat treatment or when I had to scale things up. And it was usually the document I pulled out of the back of the binder, and it had 186 items. Yes, I said it, 186. Obnoxious. But again, this was my defense. When someone would ask me, and I understand, they kind of didn't know. But this was after I already provided them with the plan, how we were going to do things, the steps of the process. What we were doing today was this step. What we are going to do in a few days is that step. What will happen in a few weeks, and what I can assure you will happen in only a few months, and the steps of the process of the sale as we would be under contract in within a window of time based on everything that I had done. And I would usually get, and I'm sorry I'm getting off track, I would usually get the person that would sit back in their chair and say, so what is it you're doing for me? That's when I found my 186 items. And I would place it out there and say, these are all the things I do. You may see them, you may not see them, but I do them for you and for every one of my clients. That usually put a little level of exhaustion to what I did, but I think it helped put things in perspective. That they understood that I wasn't just pushing paper, driving around in my car, and looking at beautiful homes. Again, start with 3 to 5. As you're going through your process, maybe build it up to 8 to 10. Let's move forward to E. E is evaluate and improve. Improve, just like I mentioned. Start with 3 to 5 and work your way up to 8 to 10. Systems do require maintenance, so it's not a set it and forget it, like the toaster. Once in a while, you got to check, right? Make sure that dial is still where it should be, because every once in a while, you get that piece of bread that got a little too crisp, and you wonder, how did that dial get adjusted? So remember, your system does require some maintenance. You got to check on things like what's working, possibly what's wasting some time. Here's the hard one. What should I stop doing? Because we all want to do something. We all feel like doing something is productive. But we may find by implementing these systems that there's certain things that, well, they're just not serving us well. And they're actually starting to consume that free time a lot more than we want. So maybe we should consider stop doing. On the other side of that spectrum, we'll start to visualize and find what are the things that we can improve. Remember the kitchen example. You might find yourself going into the kitchen several times a day. While you're in the kitchen, what are the 3 things you can be doing to not have to go back to the kitchen as often? Again, saving some time in your personal life and in your business. Again, that's what this is about. Small improvements create exponential growth over time. You'll find that the time that you're saving, you can start to incorporate something else into your life, whether it be a personal hobby or starting that next business. I always marvel at those people that I talk to that have 10, 15, 20 businesses going. But it's because they have systems and processes set in place that the idea you think they're managing their business isn't what it is. They have 20 businesses, and not all businesses require 24/7 attention. Some businesses are set up to automate. Some only let you know when there's a condition or an issue that requires your attention. So it's kind of coasting in the background, like the programs on your computer that sometimes seem to consume some energy and you go, why is my computer slow? Well, that's one of your 20 businesses, but it's okay. It's still moving and it's still doing and it's still producing. And quite frankly, when you look at that business and some of those bank deposits, you don't mind that it's slowing things down. It's when it stops is when you get concerned. Now, because I feel like this is just, I don't know, this show is just so much, it's just full of so much information that I don't know. I feel like I really need to share this as well. So sorry if I'm getting a little long, but stay with me. There are some warning signs that you're scaling stress instead of systems. When you constantly feel overwhelmed, well, that can be a sure sign that you're scaling, but in the wrong direction. When everything depends on you, again, like answering all the emails or answering all the questions or having to be at multiple places at the same time, you're scaling stress. Designate and delegate and set up those systems that allow you to, well, schedule things in a proper manner so that the places you need to be, you are at, and implement some technology and systems for if you need to be there but you don't have to participate. Maybe that might be a Zoom meeting that you're just sitting in the background, something you could listen to while you're in the car getting from point A to point B. Sure, you're still in the meeting, and yeah, they can't really see you're in the car because your video's not on, but it allows you to be there. And seeing that already in your calendar, utilizing your systems, well, again, you're eliminating the stress and you're getting stuff done. Here's one: repeating the same mistakes. You know, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and expecting a different result. By starting small with those 3 to 5, and you start seeing that, well, this particular event or line item isn't serving you well, either personal and or in business, well, maybe you got to eliminate it. Don't keep repeating it. And you might find, so I want to caution you on this as well, is as you're saving time and creating time, that you're also filling that created time with more work. And then you find yourself still working longer hours and saying, wow, this system really hasn't done any benefits for me. That's where I want to touch on again. You're scaling stress. Build a system that allows you to create those extra moments in time through your day for that thing we call self-care. To go for a walk, to take a break, to have a snack, to enjoy lunch with a friend, not necessarily business. So longer hours don't necessarily mean that you're scaling up in your business. It means you might be scaling up in stress. If there's constant interruptions, well, you don't have a system in place. I remember my agents knew my schedule. I came in, I looked at my day's business, I looked at the office day's business and the calendar. I consulted with the admin. Then I went upstairs. I made a few phone calls. And at a specific hour is when I could have agent conversations. And I was pretty firm on, unless the building's on fire, we don't have to talk about it till 10. We don't. If it was that important, we should have talked about it yesterday. And if there was something that happened, then we're going to realign and understand why it wasn't either A, taken care of yesterday if it was that important, or B, what steps could be put in place to not have that issue occur again. Anyway, I get back to saying, you don't want interruptions. Stay on your tasks. Remember, we're eliminating interruptions, and we're also eliminating any of the stuff that we're doing repeatedly, going back and forth. That consumes time as well. And it can also lead to, well, another thing where we forget the important tasks. So by just starting with 3 to 5 of the most important, focus on those until you've really honed those in where you almost don't have to look. Then we can move forward. Then we can start growing from the 8 to 10. And then we're going to dial into those and know those so well that they become habitual. Another thing is feeling busy, but not productive. Man, if you're running around and your Zoom meetings and there's this and there's that, and at the end of the week, and you're like, man, my calendar's full and I've been doing this and I've been doing that, but the heart of the matter is there's no bank deposits, well, you haven't been productive. So feeling busy but not productive, well, that's another warning sign. You're scaling your stress instead of your system. In closing, the SCALE framework, SCALE, simplify, create repeatable processes, automate, leverage, and evaluate. Remember, a system can create freedom, and stress, well, you already know that is stealing your freedom. So I invite you this week, identify one repetitive task, acknowledge it, understand whether it's helping you or hurting you and creating stress. Build one system around that to eliminate the stress and create a level of comfort. You may even find some excitement. Then the evaluate part of improving that, even, even by 1%, like the kitchen example. Instead of 3 trips, dial it down to 1. Work on that exercise and share your biggest takeaway using hashtag scale with systems and tag it at Ask Adam Live. Your future success won't be determined by how hard you work. It will be determined by the systems you build today. Build better systems, and you'll create more freedom, greater impact, and sustainable growth. Not only in your business, but you'll find in your personal life as well. This has been another amazing episode of Ask Adam Live. Now let us go out and make it a great day.